Lyne Bushell, the invisible generation. The invisible generation, Lyne Bushell.
Joy is 88 years old, and like an old battered hen, her life is confined within 4 walls. She is dependent on others for her food, her safety, and her care. When I visited Joy, I found she'd been lying in a pool of her own excrement for 2 hours. Can you imagine how humiliating and degrading that would be? Joy is one of the invisible generation, over 75 and living in a rest home. She is also my mum. Madam Contest Chair, ladies and gentlemen, and all the mums out there today. In 24 years, 40% of working age people will be aged 65 plus. How old will you be? Or your parents? Or your grandparents? It makes you think. Be honest. How many of you have ever really thought about aging and what it might mean for you or a loved one? Someone like my mum, 88 years, reduced to a single suitcase. Forrest Gump's mum said, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." My mother never knew that her life would become intimidation, indifference, and indignity. And I never knew that my values and beliefs would be challenged by my mother's experiences. In the room, next to my mother, a frail voice calls, "Help me, someone, help me." Over and over and over. The first time that I heard it, I raced over and I said, excuse me, someone needs help." They replied, "Oh, just ignore her, it's Alice, she's got dementia, she does it all the time." Excuse me? What about my mother and Alice, both unable to rest or sleep? Isn't sleep deprivation a form of torture? This is not Guantanamo, and our elderly are not prisoners of war. A couple of days later, I found my mother sitting next to Alice, gently stroking. Alice was quiet. Compassion was the gentle touch of a loving hand. My mother was a champion for compassion. Over time, I became puzzled as to why my mother would not complain or make a fuss for simple things going wrong, like her washing not turning up, until I realised that Mum was afraid. She was afraid her caregivers might retaliate and that she would be pinched, punched, and slapped. Isn't this bullying? We've all been bullied. We know how weak and powerless it makes us feel. When someone threatens someone that you love, there is this gut instinct which says, stand up, where's your courage, protect, become a warrior for the weak. And it magnifies 1,000-fold when your mother falls and she injures herself, when she gashes her head and her arm and she injures her lower back, when she cannot walk, sit or lie without considerable pain, and yet it takes 4 days for a doctor to visit. Why? This is a frail 88-year-old woman. How would you feel if that was your mother? If she'd been a child, she would have got immediate medical attention. I tell you, that instinct becomes a primal scream which says, stand up. Where is your backbone? Where is your heart? Fight, become a hero for the helpless. My mother's eyes will haunt me for a lifetime. Eyes which protected my betrayal of her trust, that I would protect and provide. Eyes that reflected the tears of her tragedy for her lost independence, freedom, and above all, her dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, I had to follow my own yellow brick road and find my lion's courage and my tin man's heart, and to learn to stand tall and to fight for what I believed in passionately, so that my mother knew that I loved her and I cared enough to protect her. Apathy cannot be our epitaph, for we are the next elderly generation. But if we educate ourselves, if we support organisations like Age Concern and Grey Power, if we become involved, if we visit the elderly, if we just sit, listen, read, or just reach out, we can raise awareness and we can cut the cancers of abuse, neglect and indifference from the lives of our elderly. Compassion is the gentle touch of a loving hand. Today, I ask you all to look inside your hearts, find your courage, and stand tall. Become champions, warriors, and heroes, so that we do not become an invisible generation, but a new enlightened generation. Then we may know what is in our box of chocolate.